Thank you, Abby, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about something that's near and dear to me. I have a couple of caveats I want to give you before I start, and that's first of all, I'm not a historian, but I have gathered some information, anecdotal information, some online, and I'll give you references at the end of my presentation. But if anyone has anything to add or supplement or correct, please do so at the question and answer period at the end. I won't be offended at all. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have called this presentation a living history. And, when you think of history, you talk about things that have happened before, and things may not be living now. But what is important about American Beach is that the inhabitants there, the descendants of the original inhabitants, and those that visit, it still is a living place, a place that is dynamic and changing and going through some transformations. So I'm going to call this a living history as we go through this presentation. So let's just talk about the beginning and how it all started. So when the slaves were freed after the Civil War, lands were provided, some by land grant and some by purchase, to freed slaves along the eastern shores, and that included the area of Fernandina Beach and Amelia Island. Now, many people don't know that the port here were one of the first places that the Union soldiers took over after the end of the Civil War. And there was a grant of land to freed slaves where they could homestead. So some of the people that were freed from the Harrison plantation that it is now the current site of the Amelia Island Resort, settled on the land at the southern end of the island. And as I said, some of those were by land grant, some of them were by purchase. But this Black settlement became Franklintown. And the descendants of those original settlers were the people that were the original inhabitants of what is known as Amelia Beach, American Beach today. There are lots of folks that can give you a lot of information about what happened, but the Franklintown folks made living on farming, fishing, raising cattle, but they lived in that area as a community and as a town. So some of the land was purchased starting in the 1960s, but in 1972, the developers started planning what was originally Amelia Island Plantation and now the Omni. And so many of those folks in that Franklintown area moved to American Beach. There was a church, which was a big part of the community and still is a big part of the African American community, that was moved from Franklintown to Lewis Street in 1972 when that development began. So that is still a church today at American Beach, and it is a cornerstone when you enter American Beach on Lewis Street. So another interesting part of this area is that the southern end of the Gullah Geechee corridor is also included in the American Beach area, Fernandina area. And these were descendants, the Gullah Geechee people were descendants of the freed slaves from Western and Central Africa. And what is unique about this set of freed slaves was because there was an isolation on the islands in that area, they really preserved the African culture that came from Western and Central Africa. And it affected a lot of the celebrations and the cultural history of those freed slaves from the Harrison plantation. So this is a picture of the church that sits on Lewis Street as you enter Lewis Street from A1A, and also a map of the entire Gullah Geechee corridor. And you'll see that this area here, where it's St. Augustine, is at the southern end of that culture. So it's important to remember that as we go through some of these tales of American Beach. So let's just talk about how this came to be. So the period between the end of Reconstruction period after the Civil War and the enactment of the Civil Rights Laws, which started in 1964, was known as the Jim Crow era or the segregation era. And this period in American history was marked by the passage and strict enforcement of laws which mandated segregation. So those laws denied Blacks the right to vote, hold jobs, get an education, and other opportunities. It also required businesses and public institutions to keep their Black and white clientele separated and also prohibited intermarriage. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen pictures of water fountains that said colored only or entrances that said white only. So those were some of the enforcement of those laws. One of the things that I remember, I'm showing my age now, is when you couldn't go into restaurants and you had to go in the rear of restaurants and pick up your food because you couldn't eat in the restaurants. And so those are some of the things that happened. And the strict enforcement of those laws sometimes meant arrest, fines, jail sentences, violence, or death. And so this was the atmosphere that was around. So these laws also applied to the beaches in South Florida and all over America. And Franklin Town was an area, remember, because the inhabitants of the Harrison plantation, the freed slaves, had land there. And so this was an area where Blacks could go to the beach. Now, one of the things that happened in Franklin Town was, as I said, part of the culture was food was a big thing there. So the church would have fish fries and barbecues, and people from the surrounding area would come to Franklin Town on the weekends. And there was this big pavilion that was there. And so the Afro-American Insurance Company that was chaired by A.L. Lewis used to treat their employees to beach outings in Franklin Town in the 1920s and early 80s. And this was very popular with their employees. And so as it grew, Franklin Town became too small a venue as the outing. So A.L. Lewis and the board there said, what can we do to continue this for our employees? And so American Beach was founded. It wasn't until January 1935 that the Afro-American Insurance Company acquired a portion of land that was sufficient to kind of be the vision, the beginning of American Beach. A second parcel was purchased in 1937, and the government granted the third and final portion in 1946. So American Beach became 216 acres with half a million feet of oceanfront property. So a lot of beach and a lot of land. So immediately when these parcels became available, the Afro-American Insurance Company started the development of roads, started dividing the lots. The lots were, and still are, primarily 100 feet by 50 feet. And the first house built on American Beach belonged to A.L. Lewis. So this house has been demolished and a new house stands there now. But the second home, another oceanfront property belonging to Louis Irving, who was the vice president and cashier of Afro-American Life Insurance Company, is still in place today and is still owned by Irving's descendants. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1988, and you can go by Gregg Street and see that placard today. In 1936, 38, excuse me, A.L. Lewis built a new oceanfront home, and that home still stands today. And so with those homes and with the other things that came, the vision of a resort, a place where Blacks in America because it was advertised all over the country, could find recreation and relaxation without humiliation. So this picture on the left is Irvin's Rest. This is the second home built on the ocean front. And the other picture is A.L. Lewis's second home on American Beach. Now, as I said, Irvin's Rest is owned by the original family. A.L. Lewis's second house is no longer owned by their family. It's owned by someone else. So American Beach became, as I said, a very popular place, not only for people in North Florida and South Georgia, but around the country. And it was advertised as an ideal vacation spot. You can see from the advertisement on the right. I guess I need to move this a little, right? That better. So this was one of the advertisements that was sent to advertise American Beach as the ideal vacation spot. In the era of segregation, the Afro-Life Insurance Company was also able to provide financial resources to help Black Americans fund their beach ownership dreams, whether it be for houses or businesses. Because as the development grew, more and more private homes were built. There were rental properties, hotels, boarding houses, and commercial establishments. And it was thus the first resort on the South Island. So this is a beach view, and it was on the first slide of American Beach. Before the dunes, before all of the development happened. And you'll see that a lot of people were parked on the beach there because remember, this was the only place where Black people could get to the beach. So there wasn't any other place to get there. They had to go on what's now Lewis Street. They had to drive down Lewis Street to get there. And there were no other places to park. So there we have it. And this is a very early picture. You don't see a lot of development on the beach. So these are some of the commercial establishments that came, and this was provided by the Community Planning Collaborative, who's been working with us on some things, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But see, 1942 Sunny Spot, Ocean View Inn, which everyone says the food was the best around. Evan's Rendezvous, which is still there, had the best fish, fried fish you could get. So everyone flocked there. Williams Guest House, the A.L. Lewis Motel, which is still there, not as a motel, but as I think it's apartments now, but it's still there, and we'll see a picture of that. Nettie's Place, it's had other names. It's been called Jeanette's Place, Net's Place, but it's still there too. We'll see a picture of that, and it has significance later on. But all of these places became commercial places where people could go and stay, rent rooms at American Beach. So this to the left is the A.L. Lewis Hotel, the way it looks today. And this is Nettie's Place. And again, we'll see Nettie's Place again. This is Ocean View, where they said the food was the absolute best. And I counter that with the picture on the right, because it is no longer there. And this is the home that is currently where this used to be. So we kind of see what's going on at American Beach now. So let's talk about Evan's Rendezvous. So it was really a hotspot of American Beach between 1948 and 1980. It was the only place at American Beach that had a liquor license, and it had a 200-person dining room. I'm told that it wasn't the only place you could get liquor, but it was the only place with a license. So we'll just leave that there. But it attracted all kinds of names: Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, James Brown. It's not listed on the Chitlin circuit, but a lot of the performers who were on the Chitlin circuits came to American Beach. And it was rumored that Elvis came to Evans Rendezvous to hear music. So I don't know if that's true, but if you're an Elvis fan, you do know that he went to a lot of places in the Chitlin circuit, and those entertainers influenced his music quite a bit. But busloads of people came and spent the day at the beach, and then native people and those who spent the night at American Beach would come and enjoy the music at night. And all of this helped get American Beach in the Green Book. And for those of you who don't know what the Green Book is, but it was a compilation of establishments throughout the country where Black people were welcome to go. Because remember, these Jim Crow laws, segregation era laws, prevented them from going. And so it gave them a safe haven of where they could go as they traveled. And American Beach was in there. So this is on the left is Evans Rendezvous as it looks today. So this is the rear of Evans Rendezvous in its heyday. And this is an advertisement of Duke Ellington. Oh, want to go back a little bit. Sorry, how do I go back? Trying to go back, can't go back, hold on a second. Okay, want to go back here. So, a lot is going on Evans Rendezvous now. This property is currently owned by Nassau County. You may not know that, but Nassau County currently owns that. And we have been having meetings with the county on how to preserve the culture and history of Evans Rendezvous and still incorporate it as the environment moves forward. So we're going to talk about Hurricane Dora. And so 1964 was not a very good year for American Beach, and we're going to talk a little bit about why. So the first thing, this picture here on the right is President Lyndon Johnson signing the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that was on July 2nd, 1964. But on September 10 in 1964, Hurricane Dora hit American Beach, and I say with a vengeance. If you look at the direction of Dora back in 1964, it came directly into that little cove that is Fernandina. If you look at the map of North Florida, it goes in indent, which protects us from a lot of the brunt of a lot of hurricanes and a lot of storms. But it came directly into American Beach, right there. And many of those homes were flooded, and some of the businesses were totally destroyed. And so what hurt American Beach more than Hurricane Dora was the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, because you will recall that that act gave Black Americans access to commercial establishments, to restaurants, to homes, all of those things. And it also gave them access to beaches. So when Hurricane Dora hit, a lot of people stopped coming to American Beach. And so the businesses didn't have the revenue to rebuild the destroyed properties, and people weren't coming. So that kind of signaled the end of American Beach as they knew it before. So I have a picture of these. This is the same establishment. This house was called the Blue Palace, and it was owned by a pharmacist that lived in Atlanta. And it was the largest oceanfront property on American Beach. And if you see this car here that's going into there, it went through the house and you could drive onto the beach. It was deemed a very, very luxurious place. And you can see from the picture that it was very, very large. So this picture on the top right was what it looked like after Hurricane Dora. It was hit pretty badly. And the bottom picture is what it looked like. Our family bought that property. That's what it looked like when we bought the property. So that kind of gives you a cycle of what happened to a lot of properties after Dora. This is what Evans Rendezvous looked like after Dora on the left. If you recall this top picture on the right, that's what it looked like in the heyday, and this is what it looked like after Dora. But in 1980, someone else bought it, did some renovations, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this other picture is what it looks like today after the county got access to the property. So this is a picture of the 1990s. And this is when I became acquainted with American Beach when we bought the Blue Palace. This is what it looked like in the 1990s. And this came after Evans Rendezvous was bought in 1980. It was renovated and it was reopened as a hotspot. So on Saturday, especially on Sundays, this is what it looked like. This is how I got introduced to American Beach. You saw kind of a mini revival. People started coming. Some people started renovating their houses. There were people selling stuff again, along with pavilions along the beach there. And it kind of came to be again. Excuse me. Need to go back again. Sorry about that. And during this period of time is when the beach lady came to American Beach. She came to the beach in 1975. Maureen Betch is the great-granddaughter of A.L. Lewis, who was the chairman of the board when American Beach was founded. This lady was an advocate to maintain the history of American Beach and ensure that American Beach was preserved as a haven for those who wanted to enjoy the beach. She was an opera singer. She came to Jacksonville to take care of relatives. And when they died, she moved into the home, the second home that we saw at American Beach. She gave up all of her material wealth, including selling the home, for the environment, for social justice, and to maintain American Beach. She became known as the Beach Lady. She gave tours. She gave history. She collected a lot of memorabilia from the heyday of American Beach. But more importantly, she engrossed herself in the politics and put herself in a position to hold off the developments that threatened American Beach. And it was her vision and the astuteness that preserved her great-grandfather's dream. Now, she lived in this trailer sometimes, but this was her makeshift museum. The museum becoming a reality was very important to her. But in the early 2000s, she developed cancer. So she became unable to stay in the trailer. It wasn't healthy for her to live on the beach because sometimes she would just sleep on the beach because she loved the beach. And so she lived in the top floor of this building until she passed in 2005. Um, and so this building is kind of important to all of us, and we hope to have this renovated sometime in the future. Developers purchased the property, a lot of the property on American Beach, and it included the tallest dune system on Florida's Atlantic coast. Now, part of that is now developed as Osprey Village, right? But the beach lady fought and fought to preserve this dune that she called Nana Dune, and it's now called Nana Dune in her honor. And the developers, in her honor, donated it to the National Park Service. And so Nana Dune is now permanently preserved. American Beach became a National Register of Historic Places in 2002. Her dream of a permanent museum was realized in 2014. It was opened as the American Beach Museum, but it's now called the A.L. Lewis Museum at American Beach. Under the leadership of Annette Myers, who was the longest serving president of what is now the Property Owners Association, had the streets lined with palm trees. So if you go down Lewis Street now, it looks like a resort. It's a beautiful street. The North Florida Land Trust purchased Little Nana Dune, which is going to be dedicated later in September, I think. They can correct me on this. As I said, Nassau County is planning the renovation and repurposing of Evans Rendezvous. For 25 years, the homeowners of American Beach have been trying to get water and sewer there. They were on septic and wells. And that is a reality. That became a reality last month, if you can believe it. So we are now in the process of connecting to water and sewer. Many of the side streets is American Beach. The county never paved them. They are now being paved. So that is a fight that we have been fighting, and it's now becoming a reality. And next year, we are celebrating the 90th anniversary of American Beach. So it's an important time for us. I have these two pictures. House that was built in the late 1940s, and it has been preserved. It is a beautiful house that you see today, and is part of what we're hoping people can do when we can preserve the properties. This property on the right was a boarding house, a rooming house, where people could rent rooms. And this is currently in the process of being preserved in the original structure. So again, we're hoping where we can to preserve those structures. This is a sign, the A.L. Lewis Museum. A lot of what I've gathered today has come from them. I encourage you all to visit. It's at 1600 Julia Street. Those are the hours. Please, please, please go to American Beach and learn more about it. So all of the information I talked about today are on these references. You can go, there are lots more. I tried to only use references that I could find in 2 places or that I could corroborate with other material. But there you are. And thank you for your time. And I have 1 minute left. So Abby, I was on time.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was absolutely wonderful. Janyce, thank you so much. I know I learned a whole lot, and I hope our participants did too. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. We do have a little bit of time for questions. So if you want to, we can do this 2 different ways. You can type your question into the chat, and Brenda will read that off for Janyce. Excuse me, or you should have an option somewhere on your screen to react. There's a little arrow and you can do like a little raised hand or a thumbs up, and that will signal to me that you would like to have the floor for a question. So we'll give everybody a few minutes to get those questions in.
So first, I want to ask, does anyone have any corrections about anything I've said? Want to make sure we get it right. I see some people on here that may know a little bit more about it than me. Feel free.
Okay, Janyce, I have our first question for you.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me? I'll just go ahead. This question asks, are day tourists welcome and a place for lunch?
So the facility where the American Beach Museum, and I think Pastor Jones is on here. I think he's on the board of that, but the hours that I showed you on the last slide are the hours, but the facility can be rented from the county, and there is a place for lunch there. And I don't know, and Pastor Jones, you can answer this if you can. There may be a time where you can call the number and get it opened, and then you can have lunch there if you reserve that area for lunch.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Janyce, I have not a question, but a comment from the NFLT CEO, Allison DeFore. He says, thank you for this wonderful presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. Love it. You'll find that the people there are, we're just committed to having everyone enjoy American Beach, to see the beauty of it and the culture that's there, the welcoming culture that's there for everyone.
Another comment that just came through, I think your presentation was fascinating and helped me understand the history and present reality of American Beach. Thank you so much for making this presentation. Another question, is there a restaurant?
Not at American Beach, no.
Okay. Another comment, the exhibit has been updated and is well worth a visit. Next question, what current efforts require the county's support, and has the county been active and supportive?
So as I said, the county owns Evans Rendezvous, and they have been active in developing plans to preserve that in a way that captures the history and maintaining the culture of American Beach. Those plans are not final. It looks like it's going to be a place where we can have lectures. There will be a place, probably a place, I don't know about a restaurant, but a place you can get food there. And look at some paraphernalia from American Beach at that location as well. So we are actively trying to do that. We're working with the collaborative community now, that organization, to look at the intersection of Gregg Street and Lewis Street, which is where Evans Rendezvous was, to kind of preserve the culture at that intersection as well. And so the county is helping us do that. We're also working with the county to correct some zoning that is not consistent with the plan, with the county plan. So I understand that that's a very complicated process, but we're in the process of working with the county on that as well.
Great. Thank you. Next question to Janyce. What is your favorite
Okay.
part of American Beach?
Just looking at the beauty of it, it is, in my opinion, my biased opinion, it is the best beach. It, as I said, it encompasses that that little inlet in the area. I mean, it is right there. And so it's a perfect place to see dolphin pools go. You see the birds feeding on the fish. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And the next thing is that you cannot walk down the streets of American Beach without one of the folks coming to say, "Welcome to American Beach. Can I answer any questions about it?" And that's the kind of place that it is. And it's a wonderful place to live.
Okay, next question. Is there an active organization for landowners and current residents of American Beach?
Yes, there are three actually. There are Friends of American Beach, and you can become a member of Friends of American Beach if you don't own property. If you want to just be a part of the American Beach community, I encourage you to do that. The website is on the last screen, and I can put it up again later. And the A.L. Lewis Museum is another organization that also helps preserve it. And there is the American Beach Property Owners Association that is restricted to property owners. But those are the three organizations that work in concert to try to preserve American Beach.
Any other questions? I'd like to remind everyone that on September 13th, Friday the 13th, we will be hosting a reveal of interpretive signage at Little Nanadune at 9:30 a.m. at Little Nanadune. And following immediately will be a brief reception where people can meet and greet and ask more questions and find out more about what NFLT is doing in Amelia Island and specifically American Beach.
Fabulous. Thank you for that reminder, Brenda. And thank you,
Sure.
Janyce, one more time for your wonderful presentation. If there are any questions afterwards that we didn't get to, feel free to email us and we can definitely pass those on. Again, our next presentation in the series will be on September the 11th, so save the date for that. And thank you to our sponsors for this Working Lunch Wednesday series, Rick and Faith Hoffman. So we'll turn the rest of your day back over to you. Thank you all for joining us and have a great Wednesday.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
Janyce.